Ya está, ya está. Test. Okay. So like yesterday, I'm serving some water.
Thank you. Okay, it's working.
Before we start, cheers.
Cheers.
Anna,
cheers.
Thanks to have you here. Cheers.
Cheers.
I wanted to start with one of the words you first see when you visit the LinkedIn profile from Anna, which is Eureka. Okay, so Eureka, right? Eureka, right? So this is a cry of joy or satisfaction when one finds or discovers something. Okay, and I think this describes very well here my guests today on the sofa. Yesterday I had Nena. She was already more or less introduced by her.
Right.
So today is her day. She's a vice chair of the Portuguese Eureka Chairmanship. Thank you. European Digital Leaguer. And a couple of other very important stuff happening on the European level. And this morning, Lilian was talking about ants and these endeavorer ants, adventurer ants, and I think we have an adventurer here. And I want you to invite the audience to take us on your journey, on where have you been, what you see, and what are the conclusions for us. Okay. So. Science, technology, innovation, and digital in Europe. Anna, simple question. What does it mean to you?
So I started in 1991 in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, exactly on science and technology. So it's been a while. And for me, the milestones in this journey, it has been when in 1995 in Portugal we had the first Minister of Science and Technology. So for the very first time we had someone really dedicated to science and technology, and he was coordinating the information society policy as well, so it was quite new. And I was so lucky that I was invited to be his advisor on international affairs. So it was amazing. So during that period, Portugal opened the research community to the world, and it was really the start of the big era of the information society. And so we did a lot of things during that period. And the minister I'm talking about is, well, he already passed away, but he was José Mariano Gago, and he was a great influencer of policy in Europe. At that time, during 1995 to 2002, he was always talking all around the world that science was a policy for peace. And it was very inspiring to hear such a thing, that science was a policy for peace. So nowadays, I can't see science is a tool for peace. I can't see that science is a policy for peace. So in 2000, we had the second presidency of the Council of the European Union. And at that time, again, I was lucky because as his advisor for international affairs, I was part of a small group that built up the program of our presidency of the Council. And these kind of concepts like knowledge-based society, knowledge-based economy, we started to use them. And they are part of the conclusions of the presidency at the European Council in March 2000, and again in June. So during that period, the first semester of 2000, it was huge because it was the time when information society turned to be a knowledge society. So we turn information in really something that could be used. So it's to organize, to manage, to analyze. And we started to have knowledge as the basis of our both society and economy. And nowadays, what I can see in science, technology, innovation, and on the digital, I see that we have to deal with the three crises. I can see that we have a crisis on the pandemic. I see a crisis in geopolitics. And I see a crisis in the way science is used. So we have, so beyond the crisis that we have in the climate, so everything is a bit connected, but geopolitics really arrived into science. And in a way that I can say that the near future will be not a future for science for peace. So now we are in the European Union, we are struggling to have the amount of funding that we were foreseen to have into 2023. And now what the proposal was put forward to the Council and the European Parliament is that certain amount will be allocated to other policies. Which policy? Defense. So I think that we are having a problem here with these three crises: climate, geopolitics, pandemic. Because this, what we call it as rare events, eventos raros, they are so many that they continue to be rare in the essence, but they are become more and more. So we are facing more and more rare events. And so the situation is like it is now, so it's a shift for the funding, is a shift of policy. And we have to face that new reality.
Mm. So basically, this is a way we have come to the status quo.
Yes.
What is the collaboration level right now on all these topics? I mean, you described 10 years ago, or like a couple of years ago when you started, that there was a lot of, euphorism or eureka for a knowledge society. Now you describe a future or a present of defense-orientated science investment. What is the collaboration, the human part in the European Union, what you see is influencing this? Can you describe a little bit what you see?
So I'm working for over 30 years, and of course all the context changed a lot.
You started very early.
Yes, of course. Yesterday I told you that when was the WISIS, the World Summit on Information Society, well, I told you that I was 3 years old, so of course. What I can say is that I worked in a very positive environment. Science was used for the best of humanity, and everything was for good, and the collaboration, the international collaboration within and out of Europe was really one of the first priorities of science in Europe. And when I'm talking about science, I'm talking about science, technology, innovation. And of course the digital comes with emerging technologies and with information society turning into knowledge society. And so in the last decade, however, we started to see that technologies should be more human-centric. That's the basis for the next generation internet that was discussed yesterday, and some projects were put forward. So it was the attempt from the European Commission, together with the Council and the European Parliament, to try to put the focus on the human being. So science, technology, and digital for the well-being of the human. So human-centering, this Anthropocene approach was really a shift that I perceived so 2015, 2016, 2017. And now, early in the 2020, so 2020, 21st, we had the pandemic. We are facing maybe the continuation of this pandemic or not, or a new one. But I just would like to call the attention that if it was not for fundamental research, it would have been much worse to fight the COVID and this pandemic. So just to say some words about the importance to continue to fund and to invest at national and European levels on the fundamental research, because applied research is very important. Applied research to the market, of course, it's tremendous for innovation. But fundamental research is really, really important because it's to understand how things really work and what we are and what the proteins are and how they can evolve, etc., etc. So it's important for so many areas. Going back to technology and, for instance, artificial intelligence, it was perceived that a lot of people in the society, they were afraid, and a lot of sci-fi, so they made some movies and being robots, being the bosses, etc. Terminator, Exterminator. We don't know exactly what will be the future, but it's important to understand that what is behind the scenes, it's really the human being. And this Anthropocene, and with this policy of the Anthropocene, and to put really the human in the center of the policy, it's really important, and it's there.
Anna.
Yeah.
Is this something everybody agrees on in the European Union, collaboration-wise?
No and yes. So, the European Union, I cannot say any longer that is European Union is all the member states are the same, but it's very good that they continue to discuss about all the areas you can imagine on a daily basis in Brussels. That is very important for the member states, so that they continue to discuss, and after the meeting they are going to have dinners with their colleagues and have some beers, etc. So it's the beauty of the European Union, that you can discuss it in the working parties, in the committees, but then you are friends. So that is something that is very good in the European Union. And then at the highest political level, we are having problems. And now with the war, of course, we are having major problems. And now in science, the European Commission put forward a communication about international collaboration, international cooperation. And it says that we should collaborate with reciprocity. So it means that we should carefully collaborate only with some countries that they will bring added value to Europe and not the other way around. I, as Portuguese, it's very difficult to understand that approach. Of course, I can understand intellectual property rights. Of course, I can understand the legal point of view of the technology that is funded by the European Commission. Actually, it's not funded by the European Commission. The European Commission executes the budget that was adopted by the Council and the European Parliament. It's very difficult now to see that the collaboration with UK, with Israel, with China, and with other countries is in jeopardy. So we are having some problems with that. And I, as a Portuguese, I'm very Atlantic. I'm very European Union, for European Union, of course, but I'm very Atlantic. And I see the world as a single way, a single spot where we live and we should collaborate with. But with this crisis that we are facing, these three main crises, pandemic, climate, and geopolitics, so it's very difficult to be there. So that's where civil society is so important. So that's why I'm so happy to be here today in this event of Cibervoluntarios.
I just wanted to ask you about, of course, a definition for you of the civil society. What is exactly, when we talk about civil society, is it this one? Is it the corporates? Is it Facebook? Is it, you know, who is civil society and who might maybe not, and if you have seen a change in this. And one, before we start this, one note on optimism, probably, because when I listen to you about, you know, where we are, and now we are facing the Ukraine crisis, we're facing international problems and war, the budget's going to defense. I just wanted to remember everybody as well that the internet was born on a defense budget. So sometimes, even if it's nicer to have a not defense-based budget, but it's also true that defense is a key driver of technology.
Innovation, yes.
And innovation. It forces so much money into a very specific use case, very pragmatic use case. So I don't know if you agree or not, but I hope that all this, what happens now, will turn out to be civil innovation tomorrow.
Yeah. So that makes me remind. That makes me to remind that when I was 28, so my son is 28 now, and when I had his age, I thought that, oh my God, I live in a glorious era. So everything is done. So almost the Cold War was finishing. Internet was something that was blooming. So all the big problems were being solved. And my generation thought that at that time, oh my God, so the future will be so bright. And so my son is 28, and he doesn't perceive the world the way I did when I was his age. So a lot has changed. So it's a new trend. So, but history, shows us that we have different cycles and different trends. And so we are living in a different trend, and a very spooky trend, scary a trend, because we are talking about nuclear weapons. Well, it was very good that we have innovation with nuclear, etc., etc. But the bad part of the good innovations and the good part of the technology, it's that it can always be used for the bad things. And the more we advance for the good, the more we advance for the bad. So everything relies really on the society and on the citizens. So the more we have citizens engaged in peace and understand and respect the human being, the more we can rely on the future of the society. The less we can believe on them, so the worse it will be. Again, about the different stakeholders that you mentioned. So I followed the World Summit on Information Society, just the one that happened in the world. It was the first one. It had two parts in 2003 and 2005. And in 2005, this World Summit approved the Tunis agenda. That is the basis for the Internet Governance Forum that happens every year. And here in the Tunis agenda, it's like our Bible, and it explains what multi-stakeholderism is. And it explains that internet is built by and for different stakeholders, being them the public sector, the private sector, the technical community. It is the community for the standards, etc. The academia, the researchers, and the civil society. And when I'm speaking about civil society, I'm speaking about NGOs that are activists about some principles. And so it's the mixture of this work together on equal footing that says there in a Tunis agenda, on equal footing, that we go for the decision making. We are in 2022. The Internet Governance Forum will have a big discussion until 2025. In 2025, it is supposed to have, well, I don't know, it will happen something. Nena explained something about this yesterday. But there will be a new event or something different will happen. But this equal footing of all these different stakeholders, I don't think that it will be possible. So we are going back. But, well, history shows that is the way the human beings are able to do together.
It's a dynamic world. It's a dynamic world. So we have, Jorge just told me, 10 minutes, right? O 9 o 8, ya. Ah, era antes. Vale, vale, pues. So right now is the moment for questions. We have 2 questions left here, but now is the moment for you. If you have any questions to Anna, now it's a great moment to bring your thoughts to the European Commission, to innovation, technology, digital. Anybody in the room with a question, please raise your hand. And in the meantime... Calladito, calladito. Despertar. Vale. Any questions? No? Okay, so then my question.
So I was very clear or I was totally unclear?
Reflection stage. Democratization of science. Yes. What does it mean?
Well, it's to put knowledge open to everyone. So it is linked with the dissemination of science, to explain science, for people to understand science and to be part of the evolution of science. And on the other hand is the search for more knowledge. And so if we democratize the access to science, we expect that the citizens, the society claims for more and more information, and so they will be more knowledgeable. And so a more knowledgeable society will be a more demanding society, and it will ask for more and more to governments, more to the private sector, so it will be a different society.
Okay. Any questions? You're right here. Very good. Federico.
Thank you, Ana.
En portugués.
En portugués. No, pobrecitos. The interpreter was like, fine, that is not a problem. I'm not gonna put you through that. Yeah, so the question is, when we talk about internet governance and all of this, it was always a competition for knowledge between the US and Europe, you know? And we clearly sort of lost the first and the second stage of that race, if you wanna, in terms of innovation, and this is very clear, and that's why we're using Facebook, Twitter, Amazon, Netflix, and I could carry on with the fantastic exception of Spotify and Booking. There's little to add. Do you think that now that we're moving potentially to a third phase of this competition, innovation, are we aware, are we doing what needs to be done in terms of fostering innovation in Europe?
What we are doing in Europe is something totally different. What we are doing in Europe is following the core values of the European Union. And that was not expected by all those companies that you mentioned. So we started the discussion, and it was adopted, the GDPR, and that was not expected by the big companies. So they started to have to comply with the regulation. Otherwise, they could not develop their businesses in Europe. So it's interesting that nobody was really expecting this, that because European Union will have regulations about this and about that, and how platforms should be run and developed. So it's really the core values of the European Union that is the major strengths nowadays. So if in the next decade there will be a transformation of the technology, so the Eureka initiative is doing the most it can to give more power to our SMEs and to give some funding for more investment, for more innovation. And we are doing what we can with the framework program on research, technology, and development, and with a new funding program in the European Union that is called Digital Europe, and another one that is called Space program in the European Union. So we have different packages of funding and budget for these new areas that are of utmost importance for geopolitics as well. But it takes time. And now we are seeing that I mentioned previously that the budget foreseen for the framework program Horizon Europe for 2023, it will be decreased because the money will be allocated to other priorities in the European Union. And we are talking about energy, defense, most likely. So it will be up to the Council and to the European Parliament, that normally is the European Parliament who normally gains this kind of budget wars because of their role in the budget. And so most likely we will not lose the whole funding expected for this year, but some funding will be allocated to other priorities, that's for sure. So to sum up, it is the regulations and the core values of the European Union that these very strong companies from the United States of America are facing, and they were not expecting, and this is a problem for them.
But there's another question. By the way, just wanted to say we have somebody from the European Union without slides.
But I'm not from the European Commission.
Okay, very good, okay. Please, go ahead.
In the transatlantic cooperation framework, was the most important European base in terms of technology transfer and knowledge management?
We have this strong collaboration, the transatlantic collaboration between European Union and the US, and it continues to be. And we continue the dialogue, but the dialogue nowadays is a bit, may I say, polluted by the geopolitics. So we are living in different times where, as I previously said, geopolitics arrived to science. And so science, technology, and the digital. So our dialogue now, it's a bit different. Our priorities are different, and what we are discussing with the US is different.
That's about it. Anna, we ran out of time. It was a big pleasure to have you here, to listen to your journey.
My pleasure.
As a good end, we hope you will endeavor new ways to overcome our blocks we find as society. And
thank you very much.
A big applause, please.
Ana Cristina. Anna Cristina, rare elements have turned into customs and uses to rethink about Earth with a human-centered approach, to move away from defense-led mechanisms, to open up to the idea of using science in order to live and to save ourselves.